Birds are in the sky.
What makes a warrior is how they see challenges and adversity as opportunities. Warriors grow, prepare, and prevail through their crucibles. Whether you're active duty, retired, or veteran, whether your battlefield is in entrepreneurship, business, or just climbing life's ladder, you'll gain some of what makes a warrior. Insight. Lessons of grit, adaptability, and the warrior's spirit will inspire you to smash through anything that stands in the way of your mission. Buckle your seatbelt as fellow U.S. Marines, Emmy Award winner Colonel Rico Player, and international best-selling author Zachary Green interview fellow warriors and share how they conquered their crucibles.
Yes, sir. We're going to smoke them.
Well, good to see everybody. Today's episode of Warrior's Voice is actually exciting. We're going to be talking with Gayle Goldner, and Gayle and I actually met through LinkedIn in your typical networking fashion. We spoke to each other, had really no idea what we were going to talk about or what we were trying to connect. We just knew that we both were like-minded people that like to help each other out. And I got to tell you, I've only known Gayle for about a week or two now, and the connections have already been pretty significant with some of the people that she's introduced me to, and vice versa. So with that, Gayle, welcome to the Warrior's Voice.
Thank you, Zachary. Yes, I'm an Uber Connector.
Uber Connector, I love that. Gold star, platinum level Uber.
Yes.
So Gayle, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you're from, a little bit about your career background, and anything else the listeners would love to learn about you.
Sure thing. So originally from New York, migrated really far to New Jersey. So yeah, I've lived in New Jersey since 2002. But the area I live in now is with my husband, who been married to for about 6.5 years. I have a bonus daughter. I was a meeting planner for 22 years for an engineering association, traveled all over the world. I've been to about 25 different countries. So that was really exciting opportunity. But because of where I lived, it was like a 5-hour, I shouldn't say that, 3 to 4 hour day commute coupled with a new executive director. So that changed things for me. And I decided to start my own business where I do a little bit of everything, a Jill of all trades, shall we say, where I do event management, program management, systematizing and organizing small business owners, entrepreneurs. And then one of the bigger hats that I wear, I am COO of Up in the Chair, which is a startup. And the mission of Up in the Chair is to celebrate each and every for their unique contribution to humanity. No one left behind, making sure everyone's, included. So I'm just someone who is always on the go, always doing something. I'm a crafter. And like I said, I'm an Uber connector. So I'm always just, I meet someone and I'm like, oh, I need to introduce you to so-and-so. Like, I just can't help myself. It's like just the way I roll.
That's great. Well, I want to really dive into Up on the Chair here in a second. But first of all, tell me a little bit about your childhood. Tell me a little bit about school and what kind of prompted you to get into event management and that space.
So I was, unlike, a lot of people, like, they change their major all the time. Like, I always was really interested, not necessarily meeting planning per se. I was really interested. I'm very much a people person. So I was a psychology major, and I was interested in like employee relations and work-family relations and all that. So actually, before I was a meeting planner, I was a childcare counselor. I help parents find childcare. A lot of people don't know, in every county in the country is like there's an organization that helps parents find childcare, and people don't even know about that. But actually, when I was in college, I was a women's studies minor, and I had an internship at the Delaware Commission for Women. I went to the University of Delaware, go Fighting Blue Hens. And there, I was kind of lucky. They were missing their administrative assistant. So I really got into doing a lot of work that I think I wouldn't have been able to otherwise. And during that time, I planned 3 different meetings. And so I didn't even know that was a possible career. So when I graduated, those were like the 2 different, employee relations or like meetings and conferences. So, at first I got that other job, the economy was terrible. And then I fell into working for this association where I started planning meetings and conferences. So that's how I kind of got into that role.
So it's interesting. My grandmother, who was born in Atlantic City area, she ended up becoming kind of an event and meeting planner out at UCLA. And oh my gosh, the stories that she had about just crazy disasters and things falling apart. Because at the end of the day, one thing she would always say when I would shadow her around, she's like, "Now, who's the one person whose neck I get to choke if all else goes wrong?" And everyone would point to everyone else, and she's like, "No, I need one person. If you're going to be in charge, you need to be my person." Did you ever have any of those disasters while you were putting any of your meetings together?
Oh yeah, I mean, especially like internationally, like it's very challenging. I mean, I just like just the languages would be very, very challenging, or, somebody who just like got upset over something minor that to you was like, oh, come on, let's just all move on now. Let's just get, we have a meeting to do here. People would get upset over, silly things. But like I said, even in a country where you're just trying to like move a chair, but no one there even speaks English, just like, can you move this chair?
What are some of the ways you help diffuse some of that tension and challenge? Because it's kind of like when you're in an event and you've taken months to plan it, and you've got a client base that is their job's on the line to have the successful, and things fall apart as they always do. Talk me through kind of your process of calming people down, finding resolution, and kind of working through some of those challenges.
Well, I think just like what you just said is like taking more of the like step-by-step approach instead of thinking of it as like one big problem. If you break down the problem and like try to find the solutions versus just like, what do I do? Like, what do you do first? Then what do you do second? What do you do third? So that you don't have to feel like overwhelmed by the, entire situation.
And that's a great thing we talk about a lot here on the Warrior's Voice is adaptability. The warrior is going to be presented with many different scenarios, and the ability to be able to be creative and adapt. And the best way to do that, as you said, is breaking down small little pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I have definitely certain perspectives. Like I always tell people, so I'm a cancer survivor. So that's, there are times in which it's like, you think, oh, whatever, it's no big deal. I survived cancer. So for whatever this problem is like nothing compared, to that. So sometimes that's why my perspective. And then even before I had cancer, unfortunately, I tell people I knew someone who was murdered when I was 16 and they were 16. And that kind of just like, that's where my philosophy of like, you only live once kind of came about. So I think those two, I had cancer at 26, that happened when I was 16. So those two situations, you talk about warrior and how do you get through things. And I just think a lot of it is perspective, just putting things into perspective, like, is it really whatever's going on? Like, how bad is it really? It's like I keep saying now, my husband gets upset and I'm like, really? Is your town being attacked? So, just gotta, that's why I think perspective is a great word to keep in mind.
That's great. It's always about, the person that complains because their shoes don't fit, and then they see the guy that doesn't have a leg, and then it's just, what is perspective there. Those are two pretty significant events. Would you mind kind of telling our listeners a little bit more about either one of those or both of those?
Sure. I mean, the first scenario, I mean, it wasn't someone I was super close with, but it was someone that I went to school with and, and knew, and definitely it's just like kind of like, just like I said, put things in perspective. It was like, wow, like how did that happen to someone who's the same age as me? I think that was too, that it was someone the same age. And being a teenager, you think you're invincible, right? So I think that's why it was probably even more impactful. And then, as far as the cancer, I had ovarian cancer, which is very unusual at 26. So, that was a very challenging situation. Just because all my friends, at 26, I was living in Manhattan and everyone else is going out and partying and I'm like getting chemo, so, and also thinking, my future, I think I'm going to get married and have children, and all of a sudden like, no, that's not going to happen for me. I can't, have children anymore. And, financially it impacted me. It impacted me also like with my job, back in the day when you didn't feel like you could go to another job because you might not have your insurance because of the, pre-existing conditions. Like I talk about the ripple effects of cancer. Like, I mean, people just, it's not just, you just had cancer, it impacts so many other parts of your life that people, I think not everyone realizes, like not their fault that they don't realize, but if they've not had it, then how would they know any better? But, just being sensitive to people, to realize that it's not just the physical, there's the emotional component to it. There's the impact it has on your various relationships in your life. It's like, it's 25 years later and there's still parts of my life that are impacted, because of it.
So obviously cancer is a horrible thing. It's touched all of us many, many different ways, from people to family members to, in your case, yourself. And it's horrible. But what good came out of it? What did you learn from that experience? You talked about perspective. I think that's absolutely a great point. But let's talk about how that kind of shaped your warrior spirit by having that horrible experience, especially at an age like that.
Right. I mean, I definitely, like, there were times where I would kind of be like, oh, you want to go to the front of the line? Sure. I don't care. After I've been through, go to the front of the line. I don't care, that kind of thing. Or, and just really, obviously, like, the appreciation, for life or what have you. But, I always say also, like, my grandmother always taught me, like, look at the positive, right? So I met a lot of great people. Unfortunately, some of them did pass, but, like, also the relationships that I've formed. I'm a volunteer for an amazing organization, give them a plug, Cancer Hope Network. And I do counseling for them. And that's been an extremely, rewarding experience. I didn't have to worry about getting pregnant when I didn't want to. So that was kind of cool. Right. I tried to think of the positive, I was like, I don't have to get my period anymore and deal with that, so it's like, I would try to be like, okay, let's see what are the benefits of, of this, scenario. So those were, like I said, I always try to think of them. I mean, I'm sure you can tell just the short time you've known me, I'm obviously a very, positive person.
Well, Gail, and I got to tell you that is truly the optimist way of looking at things. The glass is half full, or it's glass is half empty. You look at the great things, and I think that really is something that we've found a lot of people that are successful. Look, life sucks. Life is difficult. Bad things happen to good people. But it's how you react to what happens to you, not what happens to you, is really what makes the difference. So I think that's...
Yeah, well, I'm a big believer in, like, energy. So it's like, why are you wasting your energy on, like, oh, poor me, the whole, like, Eeyore? Like, to me, that's just such a waste of energy and time.
I agree. Well, thank you for sharing that. Tell us a little bit about Up on the Chair. I think it's an interesting movement that you're working with.
Yeah, so it's a global movement. Up in the Chair, like I said, we celebrate each and every for their unique contribution to humanity, no one and nothing left behind. And it was started by a camp friend of mine, a sleepaway camp. We've been friends for over 40 years. And she brought me in because one of the things she was trying to do was to create an event inclusion course. So obviously, with my meeting planner background, she wanted me to bring that, to her. And one of the things she does is she works with intern cohorts. So I started working with her, and then it was very obvious that she kind of needed some more organization to her company. And so with my management skills, I then now became the COO of the company. And there's 4 legs of the chair, and we have various different programs. So we have an emerging professional alliance program where we teach visionary leaders how to work with intern cohorts. So, groups of interns to help them with their mission-driven businesses. We are, like I said, in the middle of creating an event inclusion course. We also are creating uplifter clubs. So in schools and companies and organizations, trying to lift up people for anything. Like you said, it could be something very, little. We're creating, like, subscription boxes. So if somebody wanted to lift up their grandmother, their whoever they would want to lift up, a client, whoever it is, they can, buy a box and lift them up. And so I encourage everyone to join our group. We have a group on Facebook, the Uplifters Community. You can find us. And it's just like, who doesn't like to celebrate people?
Yeah. Well, that's great. And what I really like about this is we're not celebrating people just because they're famous, actors, actors, athletes. Yes, they do have a big impact on people, but just because they're popular doesn't make their story impactful. We want to find the average person that's not doing this for fame or for fortune, just to make the world a better place. And
exactly, those are exactly the people that we are looking to lift up. So I encourage everybody to come on board.
Excellent. Well, anything else you'd like to share with our listeners? Any other advice you may have for other warriors that maybe are going through challenges right now and they want to be inspired to kind of take it to that next level?
Sure. Also, as Zachary knows, I'm a huge networker, right? And a lot of people think maybe they don't have that many people in their life. But I think you'd be surprised sometimes that your network is probably a lot bigger than you think that it is. And that pretty much anyone in that, all the various circles in your life would be there for you. Sometimes I think people are hesitant to ask for help. Excuse me. So I would just encourage people that to not be hesitant to ask for help if they need it.
No, I think that's great. Well, Gayle, thank you so much for your time today. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to get in touch with Gayle?
The best way to get in touch with Gayle is, I guess, Gayle Goldner at gold-mgmt.com. So it's Gayle Goldner at gold-management-mgmt.com is my business address. And obviously it's the one I look at the most.
Excellent. All right, Gayle, well, have a wonderful day. We certainly appreciate you coming on board. What we typically do before we wrap up each show is we donate and we recognize a former warrior that has either given their life or just simply served at a time that was unique. And for this episode, I'd like to dedicate it to someone that I know is very near and dear to both of us, and that's Golda Meir. Golda Meir was a true pioneer of the state of Israel from the founding, and then also somebody that didn't allow Israel to get pushed around. And during some of the horrible things that were happening in the 70s and the 60s, it was Golda that went after there and made sure that we tracked down every one of those terrorists that brought dishonor and death to the people of Israel, especially the ones that didn't make it through the Olympic horrible hostage event. So in honor of Golda Meir and all those other great female warriors out there, we'll finish the program as we always do with a Semper Fidelis.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Warrior's Voice. If you haven't, please subscribe to this show and be the first to hear new episodes with fellow U.S. Marines Rico Player and Zachary Green. You can also visit www.warrior-framework.com to learn more about how you and or your business can use the Warrior Framework to conquer personal and professional crucibles.